This is episode 39. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. We have been expounding Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and in the last discourse we were speaking about the summary of Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna is a description of those who have realized God, the true saints, the Sadgurus or avatars or prophets or whatever we want to call. When God comes down on earth, how would we recognize? So these 18 slokas of Sthita Prajna at the end of the second chapter, Way to Knowledge is the title of this chapter. I will pronounce slok 71. Vihai kaman ya sarvan pumaus charati nisankara sa shanti madhigacchati. Usually in our study we divide the slok into 4 parts, because these are like mantras, these are like prescriptions in such a short language or few words that if we don't pay attention we may overlook 1 or 2 words, and that means we will not get the right message. In this slok, the first quarter, it says Vihai kaman ya sarvan. When a person abandons, overcomes all kinds of passions, and we have been talking about all the 5 organs or senses, so we have covered that field, and marking the word sarvan, that we should not allow a single hole in the pot or a single plug in the car or engine, spark plug not functioning, then the car will not function perfectly. So, Vihai kaman ya sarvan pumaus charati nispruha. And when a man, after having done this, he can move around in this world. He doesn't have to abandon this world. There is no danger. Once he has already controlled his 5 senses, the world does not then disturb him. He is not perturbed very easily by these senses. And then he moves around nisproha, detached. He has no trishna, he has no desire for these toys that he has now learned, causing him more pain and suffering rather than satisfaction. So nispruha is the word that Buddha Bhagavan also used quite often. As a matter of fact, he said the cause of all our suffering. Buddha Bhagavan taught us that suffering is due to spruha. Spruha was the single word that he pointed out, which is what we are talking here in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So, freedom from attachment, from trishna, desire for lust, as he says, once we give up that, and then we can move around safely. It's like Sri Ramakrishna used to say that if you put on oil on your hands and then break that particular fruit which is very sticky, we call kotho, it's like a coconut and it is very sticky when you break it. But he says first put on oil on your hand so that it will not stick. Similarly, putting oil on our hand means if we can defend ourselves, protect ourselves, cover ourselves with what we are talking about, renunciation or renouncing these objects of lust, then we are safe, then we don't have to be afraid of them, and we can then move around. We often know that firefighters, when they protect themselves before they enter into a place where there might be fire and smoke, but they are all prepared for that. A person who goes to the top of Himalayas, he prepares himself with oxygen and all, otherwise he may not be able to survive there. A person goes into the space, also defends himself or prepares himself with whatever necessary things they need to survive. Similarly, for us to survive in this world, the only thing we need is nispraha, detachment from these organs which and the objects of desires that causes us pain. So if we can protect ourselves by nirmamo nirankaraha, these two are the protection. It is the egoism and mamta, what we call this. This is mine, this is yours, this is my religion, this is your religion, this is my God, this is your God, this is my land, this is your land. We fight for land. Wars are going on for that. So this mine and yours, the Dhritarashtra has begun this entire problem of war. If we have to overcome that, we have to see the unity in the midst of variety, and we should also be able to see variety in God, that God has taken various forms. So all forms are God, and so all the branches of the tree belong to the same tree, or all different fruits still belong to the same tree, getting nourishment from the same roots. Similarly, all of us are supported by five elements. We have all been surviving due to the same sun. There is only one sun, only one moon, and therefore there is only one God. If we understand all these things, then we will be able to overcome this mamta we call ownership, attachment, ignorance, and nirankara means freedom from egoism. Then in the last quarter of the slok we say shanti madhigacchati. Then we will have this peace, and peace is all we are looking for. The whole world today is having this problem of war and friction among people, among religions, and politically, economically, peace of mind. Whether we have money and plenty of food and everything, we still do not have the peace. There is insecurity. We do not know how long it will last, what will happen to the stock market or to this, whether there will be proper rain or not. There are so many factors and uncertainties that no man, however rich, will feel secure, even if he is a king, or no country, however rich he thinks that he can defend, can be secure. And recent events in the United States tells us that none of us is secure unless we surrender to God. The only security we have is in surrendering. And Mirabai found that out, and all the saints found that out, that that is the genuine security, genuine peace, genuine joy, love, and that is what we need. Then, if that is what we need, then we must overcome what this slok is telling us. That when we reach this state of peace, shanti madhigacchati. So mark the word shanti, it is the real peace, and not ordinary peace where after the battles those parties sign papers that okay, we will not have war, but as soon as they are powerful again after several decades, then there is again a war between them. This doesn't leave us. So that is not the type of peace we are talking about, that we are forced to sign because we lost the battle, but there must be a change in heart. We really feel that wars are no good, where we kill innocent women, men, and children, people, just like we saw in 9/11, that 3,000 people who were totally innocent and had nothing to do with politics, religion, or anything were destroyed in no time, burned to ashes. So this thing happens all around the world. Sometimes we don't even know. Other day I heard that there were 2 million people in one of the African states have been killed over the last few years because they have fruit among again political parties or people with pride who wants to rule the new state. So this is not something new. Thousands and thousands of people have been destroyed, and we have lost the peace only because of this egoism and what we call mamta or maya. We have seen that the people die, but the maya and ignorance is not dying. The terrorists are being killed, but the terror is not killed. Even today we have Duryodanas among us, within us. Each one of us must examine rather than blaming or pointing fingers at anybody else. If we will dive deep into ourselves, we will find that somewhere we have this lust for money, name and fame, or greed, the greed that is causing us all these problems. Now then, when we overcome this and we achieve this peace, that is a state. We always think of a place where we can go. That is why somehow we have created what we call heaven. It is just a place, but it is not really a place. But we are so used to thinking in terms of place, so Lord said this is a state called Brahma, Brahmi. Brahmi is a state or a state of Brahman. एषा ब्राह्मी स्थिति पार्थ नैनां प्राप्य विमूयते स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकाले अपि ब्रह्म निर्वाणं रुच्छति. Now this slok sums up not only the 18 sloks of Sthita Prajna, it also sums up all the teachings so far we have learned. And it says that this is the state, that the eternal peace, and not a temporary peace, indivisible, eternal, unconditional peace beyond time. When we reach that state, that is called a Brahman Sthiti. Once we have reached that goal, then there will be no problems, we will not be deluded. Na enam prapya vimuyati. We will not be deluded, we will not stay ignorant anymore, we will not fight, and we will not be full of pride anymore. And once we have been established in this, even at the end of the time, or in the end of our life, or after all the sufferings, we can say, then one will enjoy Brahma Nirvanam Ruchati. Then a man enjoys this state of Brahma Nirvana. Nirvana is another important word that Buddha Bhagavan also used, and here Gita is also using the spiritual summary of Upanishads. So Nirvana Shabda is a freedom, eternal freedom, eternal joy, beyond death, deathlessness, immortality, what we call, is what Nirvana, word Nirvana indicates. So once the Brahmi state is reached and we realize that, and once we attain this, we are never overpowered by this darkness or ignorance, what we call the Maya. It has already been said that the object of senses will lose their power. We have said we have overcome those objects of senses. They have no more power over us because they know that we have renounced them, we have overcome them. And then we see, once we have seen God, Shri Krishna is summing up this thing, that this state then, once we have reached, there will be no delusion, there will be no illusion, we will not be deceived or cheated out of our beautiful life that we have received. Now this can, when we say antakale api, that means that all our life, it is not necessarily, supposing a man has done lot of evil, Gita has said that, even then, like Pingala, even then, if you realize at any time in our life that it was wrong, that I shouldn't have done that, we ask for forgiveness, then Lord says that even at that time, though all your life you may be evil or ignorant, but if somehow by God's grace you begin to change your life, then you can receive this state of mind which is Brahma Nirvana. Antakale means also that if you have, supposing you have done good karmas all your life, but at the end of your life something happened and you went back to the state of ignorance, then we will not realize Brahma Nirvana, even if we have sacrificed all our life, but at the end we change. So what we really mean is that up to the last moment, either throughout the life or at the end, we must have purity of heart and we must think about God at the last breath. If at the last breath we think about our children and grandchildren and our bank accounts, and we talk to our sons what has happened to our property and all these talks, our children and our wealth, then of course we are back to square one. We are back into the Maya, and the next birth that he will get will start again with all this concern and anxiety he had at the time of death. That is what he will carry with him into the new birth. So this is how then the body's death is not our death. The desires that we carry is something that keeps us going. We don't die unless our desires die. The death of body is not considered the death of man. It is the death of desires that is ultimately giving us an immortal state where we never have to die again. A state in which there is no more births, no more deaths, no more suffering. It is a state, Brahmistiti, what we sometimes call in the Bhagavatam and in the scripture of love, which is what we call Bhagavatam, religion of love, that Sri Krishna is teaching in Bhagavad, what we call Gopi Lila, but this is not for those who are full of lust or they haven't overcome the sexual feelings. Whenever we talk about man and woman or God and gopis, unless we have overcome that, we are not qualified to talk about it. But that religion of love is what it is that says there is a state which we call Vaikunt, which is the same as Brahmanirvan. It is a matter of using different words. Different religions may use different states or describe in any way they want. It is simply what we are saying is that it is an immortal situation or immortal state where we never have to come back. So thus then the second chapter concludes telling us how we can enjoy this Brahm Nirvanam or the ultimate state, that we can come out by this following this advice that has been given to us in description of Sthita Prajna. This not only concludes it but tells us that Sri Krishna Bhagavan is trying to arouse spirituality in Arjuna. What we call spiritual awakening is the first thing that we need. Arjuna is ignorant, he thinks about dharma that we have talked about, and Lord is trying to help him distinguish between the ritualistic dharma, real dharma, and even beyond that, which is what we call spirituality. Though I would, at this stage, when we mention about Lord Buddha, I would like to see or state that he has given the same message as in a simple language as Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Shri Krishna has given. He says, who is the true master? When we say Sthita Prajna, one who has control over himself, and that is called Sthita Prajna. He has used the word master, as Mirabai used to call Giridhar, or master or husband, whatever name, or shepherd, who takes care of the goats and sheep, and most of the human beings are acting like goats and sheep anyway. So these spiritual masters come and try to save us from the lions or these ritualistic gurus that misguide us or eat us up by keeping us in ignorance. So again, Buddha Bhagavan has said something about the master and how he is saying the same thing as we have been talking about Sthita Prajna. I would like to read his message. Now, I would like to also recommend that there is a very little book, I think it's about 3 inch by 5 inch. It is a pocket book. I was so happy when I first got this about 20 years ago in some form. I think I had received this. At that time it was in a larger form. It says Dhammapada, or the sayings of the Buddha. I think Thomas Bryan was the person who has translated from the original writings of Buddha. He spoke in Pali. Pali language is one of the Indian languages that was popular about 600 BC in northern India. Anyway, the Sambala publications have published this little book. It's so beautiful and it covers so well, and in such a simple language it gives us the substance that sometimes I wonder if we need tons and tons of books. When I go to libraries and bookstores and I see the books on Buddhism and books on Christianity and books on Hinduism, I just wonder if we are not lost in the forest again. because people have their own ego and they go on and on and on, writing, and then we lost in the jungle, we lose ourselves where we are. We can't distinguish from one tree from the other. So, one of the things we all need to do is to come out of ignorance. And as I have said, this is at the moment I would call it a culture of ignorance. I have learned from a friend of mine who keeps talking about TI. I think he means technology information. We like the words, coin words, TI and FI and whatever that is. But so I am also now getting used to using your language. And I say CI is a culture of ignorance, particularly spread in the universities. And people ask then how come he is educated and he is acting so stupid when he goes and performs these rituals and magics and things like that, miracles that he is after, this superstition. How come an educated man does that? Then I call him that he is an uneducated educated. He is in name only, as in scriptures also it says he is in name only educated. He is not really educated because he has pumped up his ego more than humility. So this culture of ignorance then even Arjun is going through. We need a spiritual awakening, and that is what Gita is doing. That is what Mira did. That is what Buddha did, and all these saints of all time and all religions, as we have said, has done that. They have spoken very little. I am told that Jesus didn't speak more than 273 words. Amazing as it is, I wonder if we even need 273 words. If only one slok can tell us the entire thing, but we don't listen, we don't understand, so we have to expand, and when we start expanding, then we put our own understanding and we confuse the original message, and at the end we wonder what the original message was. Once it starts going through several persons and several editions of the book, original message is lost. Fortunately, God doesn't allow that. And so he has said that yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamiyam. These two sloks in Gita that I will be talking about, that every time there is ignorance spreading like it is, and it is spreading in such a way that the people who think they are smart, they will be deceived through their smartness only. So if we consider this culture of education, then we will be deceived through education only, so that we will never know. These are the powers of Maya. Whatever you think that is the best for you, through that only the Maya will deceive us. That is why humility is required. Now I would like to, before I speak about other things, and I said that every time religion or spirituality is destroyed by the evil people or these ritualistic dharma gurus, these teachers, then God somehow comes on this earth in the form of saints or avatars or prophets, and they re-establish the truth, try to destroy the untruth, and protect those who are wise and destroy the unwise like Kauravas. So here we are going to see that the Pandavas will be protected, those who have surrendered to God, they will be protected. We will be protected if we understand how to surrender to God. The rest, of course, will be dying just like worms and germs. We go through the life, 84 lakhs of births. We are no different than worms and germs when we don't realize God or we don't understand spirituality. We may be merely breathing, eating, and breeding. Animals do the same thing. Birds are also doing the same thing, and so are the trees. The special distinction of man is that he can go beyond all these things and realize his real self, that he is part and parcel of God. Now let us see what Buddha Bhagavan has to say. And he says, the true master is the one, he wants nothing. And mark every word. I think you will recall what we have said in spirituality. He is saying, with all your heart, stop the stream of lust. When the world dissolves, everything becomes clear. And when he says world dissolves, the sansar, or again the last, using different words, everything will be clear. The curtain of ignorance will be removed. So he says, go beyond the ignorance, this way or that way. Somehow go beyond this ignorance to the farther shore where the world dissolves and everything becomes clear. Beyond this shore and the farther shore, beyond the beyond, where there is no beginning, there is no end, there is no middle, as we have spoken in the description of the body and the soul. Without fear, go, march, fight like a soldier, meditate, live your life purely, be quiet, do your work with expertise. By day the sun shines, and the warrior in his armor shines like mirror. By night the moon shines, and the master shines in meditation. But day and night the man who is awake shines in the radiance of the spirit, the Atman. A master gives up the mischief of lust and greed, and he becomes serene or peaceful. He leaves everything behind him. He does not take offense of what people say about him, and he does not give a cause for offense to anyone else. He never returns evil for evil. Alas for the man who raises his hand against his brother, and even more for him who returns the blow. Resist the pleasures of life and the desire to hurt others till sorrows vanish. Never offend by what you think or what you say or what you do. Honor the man who is awake and shows you the way to immortality. Honor the fire of his sacrifice, that he has sacrificed his life for you. Matted hair or family or caste do not make a master. But the truth and goodness and service to the poor with which he is blessed, that makes him perfect. Your hair is tangled and you sit on the deer skin. What a folly, what a stupidity. When inside you are ragged with lust, the master's clothes are in tatters, torn. His veins stand out, lack of food. He is wasting away. Alone in the forest, he sits and meditates. A man is not born to mastery. A master is never proud. He does not talk down to others. Owning nothing, he misses nothing. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.